Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah Abdelrahman will be the new head of the council, Ibn Auf said. He also said Chief of Staff Kamal Abdelmarouf al-Mahi was relieved of his position as deputy head of the Transitional Military Council. In order to ensure the cohesion of the security system, and the armed forces in particular, from cracks and strife, and relying on God, let us begin this path of change, Ibn Auf said. News of the change sparked joyful celebrations in the streets of Khartoum as people chanted, "The second has fallen," in reference to Bashir, witnesses said. "We are committed to our demands that we submitted to the army," he said. "We call on the masses to stay on the streets until all the demands are met." The military council said earlier that it expected a pre-election transition to last 2 years at most or much less if chaos can be avoided. The head of the military council's political committee, Omar Zain al-Abidine, said the council would hold a dialogue with political entities. Bashir, 75, himself seized power in a 1989 military coup. He had faced 16 weeks of demonstrations sparked by rising food costs, high unemployment and increasing repression during his 3 decades of autocratic rule. "We do not reject a military council in principle, but we reject these people because they are from Bashir's regime," said Abdulhamid Ahmed, a 24-year-old doctor. Ibn Auf was Bashir's vice president and defense minister and is among a handful of Sudanese commanders whom Washington imposed sanctions on over their alleged role during atrocities committed in the Darfur conflict that began in 2003. Announcing Bashir's ouster on Thursday and the creation of the military council, Ibn Auf also announced a state of emergency, a nationwide ceasefire and the suspension of the constitution, as well as a nighttime curfew. Those steps were criticized as heavy-handed by rights groups. Abdel Fattah Abdelrahman was the third most senior general in the Sudanese armed forces and is not known in public life. He was the head of Sudan's ground forces, a role in which he oversaw Sudanese troops that fought in the Saudi-led Yemen war. Inclusive political process Sudan's deputy UN ambassador, Yasser Abdallah Abdel Salam Ahmed, told the UN Security Council on Friday that any democratic process in the country required time, and he urged the international community to support a peaceful transition. "No party will be excluded from the political process, including armed groups," he told the council during a meeting on Abyei, a contested border region claimed by Sudan and South Sudan. The 15-member council convened later on Friday behind closed doors to be briefed on the latest developments in Sudan. Moreover, the suspension of the constitution could be lifted at any point and the transitional period could be shortened depending on developments on the ground and agreements reached between stakeholders, the Sudanese envoy said. World powers, including the United States and Britain, said they supported a peaceful and democratic transition sooner than 2 years. China said it would continue to seek cooperation with Sudan regardless of the political situation. Zain al-Abidine said the military council would not interfere with a civilian government. However, he said the defense and interior ministries would be under its control. Not greedy for power, Zain al-Abidine said the military council itself had no solutions to Sudan's crisis and these would come from the protesters. "We are not greedy for power," he said. "We will not dictate anything to the people. We want to create an atmosphere to manage a peaceful dialogue." He said the council would meet on Friday with political entities to prepare a climate for dialogue, but that was later postponed. The council said on Friday it would not extradite Bashir, who has been indicted by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Bashir is facing an arrest warrant over accusations of genocide in Sudan's Darfur region during an insurgency that began in 2003 and led to the death of an estimated 300,000 people. He denies the allegations.